We will now be refactoring our insert method to allow us to update a friend's email address. What if one of our friends changes their email address? Well, we want to be able to update their email address in our hash table, but right now we have no way of doing that. So let's make it possible. So what we want to be able to do is to use our insert method not only to insert new friends into our hash table, but also to update a friend if that friend already exists in our hash table. So in our insert method, we can leave this if statement as it is because it simply inserts our friend or node into the correct bucket if the bucket is currently empty, which is good. Now remember, this else statement deals with the case that the bucket that we want to insert into is not currently empty. So this is where we want to check to see if the friend that we are going to insert already exists in this bucket. If they do already exist, we want to update their info. If they don't, we simply want to add them at the end of the chain. So as we loop through all of the nodes in our chain with this while loop, we're going to check each one to see if it is the friend that we want to update. So we will say if current node dot next dot key, if the key on the next node equals the key parameter that we have passed in, then we know that this is the friend that we want to update. So if current node dot next dot key equals the key that we have passed in, we want to set the current node dot next dot value equal to the value parameter that we have passed in. And that will update our friend's email address to the new one that we have passed in as the value. We also want to add a return statement right here. We do this because if we have the situation in which we update our friend in this if statement, then we want to stop the rest of this method from running. That is what this return statement does. We need this method to stop running here because if it didn't stop here, we would update our friend. Then after this while loop, we would come down here and attach a new node onto the end of the chain, which we don't want to do in this case. We simply want to update our friend, and that is it. So that is why we place this return statement here, to stop the rest of this method from running. So the reason that we are not checking the current node in our while loop, but instead we are checking the next node, is so that we can check the last node in our chain. Our while loop takes us all the way down through our chain, but when we get to the last node in our chain, its next property will be no. So this while loop will never run when our current node is set to the last node in our chain. That is why inside of our while loop, we are always checking the next node or one node ahead. By doing this, we will be able to check the last node in our chain. Now, this leaves us with a problem that you might have realized. If we are only ever checking the next node in our chain, then at no point do we ever check to see if the first node in our chain is the friend that we want to update. Because when our current node is initially set equal to the first node in our bucket, we never actually check that one inside of our while loop. We only check its next node. So we need a way to check to see if the first node in our bucket is the one that we want to update. We will do that by adding an else if statement right here. So we will say, if there is no node in our bucket, do this up here. Otherwise, we want to check the first node in our bucket. Then we will move on to our else statement. So we will say, else if this dot buckets at our index dot key equals the key that we pass into the method, then we want to set this dot buckets at our index dot value equal to the value that we pass into our method. And that is it. That will update our friends' info if they are the first node in this bucket. Great. And with that, our insert method is done. We now have an insert method that will insert a new node into the proper location in our hash table if it is the first time that person is being inserted. It will also update our friends' info if they already exist in our hash table. Let's test out this method to make sure that it works in the next video.